Time now, 7 o'clock.
Doctor,
Not yet?
are you ready? Yes, we're ready. Let's go.
You ready, Brian? 5, 4,
Oh.
2, 1.
Welcome to the Autosportradio.com 2018 show. I'm your host, Don Kay. We are coming to you live from Speedway, Indiana, McGilvery's Speedway. If you're in town for the NASCAR race, or you're in town for the airplane race, or if you're just in town, you got to stop by McGilvery's. Great place, great service. Adult beverages are ice cold. You'll love it. The food is excellent. Tonight's show is presented by Honda and Honda HPD, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, Verizon, IndyCar Series, and SVRA. If you haven't been to the museum to see the amazing Unsers exhibit, you got to go. There's some little things up there. You can take one with you and see what they're doing. It's quite an interesting display. I want to mention there is something you might want to keep in mind. Bill and Stephanie Throckmorton are the owners of the Grand King Race Shop. Can pick up 6 to 8 people at one destination for a cost of $75 a person and take them to the Grand King shops for a personal tour, then to the IMS Museum, Duman's Turn 4 restorations, and other shops could be available for a stop at your suggestion. To find out what's going on, what's available, when, give them a call. The shop number is 317-820-3595, or you can call Bill's cell, and he loves this one. 317-371-0290, especially about 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning. That's when he's really at his best.
I need a ride.
It's a get a small group together and have an enjoyable trip touring the shops in the Indianapolis Speedway Museum. And I also got to throw in there, they do have this luscious limousine. It can be used for parties. You want to surprise your honey or your girlfriend or somebody, or take a group out. I highly recommend that you do it. I did it. It worked out fabulous. You should have seen Bill. For Pete's sake, I was so excited. He has his little chauffeur's hat on. He had a checkered tie. He had checkered shoes. And he walked very nicely. And it works out. It's a great one. So give him a call on that. Same numbers, 317-820-3595, or his cell, 317-370-0290. Are you ready to see the dentist? Nobody usually is, but I highly recommend the Indy Dental Group. Dr. Jack Miller and Dr. Liz Lewis have a phenomenal practice, and their people are great. Give them a call, make an appointment. The number is 317-846-6125. And if you ever wanted to wave the green flag, be an honorary starter, or take a two-seater ride, you can join the IndyCar Nation. You could win VIP experiences at every race. Go to IndyCarNation.com to sign up today and use the promo code DONK15. That's K-A-Y. DONK15. You get 15% off of a championship or a legend membership. Look into it. They have a great time, and Riley is phenomenal. And you can't help but find her. She's got the straw hat on. She's about 2 foot 10 inches tall in a straw hat. You won't miss her. The Vintage Indy Registry, driving Indy past into the present, is dedicated to the history and preservation of Indy cars from 1911 to 1997. The IndyCar Registry will be presenting Open Wheel Icons IndyCar Weekend at Gateway Motorsports Park on August 24th and 25th. Come see and hear a full field of vintage Indy cars on track each day, including the STP 68 Turbine, the Radical 72 Samsonite Parnelli. You can visit VintageIndyRegistry.com and find them on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Tickets are at GatewayMSP.com. I have a guest, and I don't know what to say about him, because if I said everything that he's accomplished, we would go home when I'm done. So I just kind of cut it short. He's been a part of the 500 Festival Parade for better than 25 years. He and his wife have been selected as the Sagamore and the Wabash twice by Governor Kerner and then by Governor Pence. He has teamed up with his good pal Brian Hassler and co-founded the IRMA, Indy Racing Memorial Association, and it has grown dramatically. People actually found out that these two guys are straight shooters. Kind of hard to believe in the racing world. And it's been growing by leaps and bounds. They just, this past Saturday, had the unveiling at Crown Hill and put in some bricks, and they got bricks from the brickyard to start finish line. They put the bricks in and they put 3 in for the founders of the Speedway. I don't know how the man has time to work. And maybe he doesn't. I really don't know. Because when I call him, he answers. Not sure why, but he does. So I invited him here tonight, as I had mentioned when I sent out a message that our friend from Juncos Racing, Ricardo, had to call up last night and reschedule, so he isn't here. But I found a very suitable replacement. He's not only an educator, but he's a stand-up comic. Please welcome Dr. Mark Eutsler. Well, I said stand up, but you're sitting down, so
sitting down,
but
yeah.
that'll work, won't it?
That'll work.
I hope so.
I was almost late because I thought you were sending the limo, and I used the promo code Don K.
That didn't work, did it?
And well, this little Kia came by, so I'm not sure what that was about.
Bill, I didn't set this up. I don't know what he's talking about. You have a number of degrees and whatever you call, less than a PhD, a number of them. But what got you into motorsports? Because you are really a motorsports fan. So how did you get into this?
I am. Yeah, that's a good description. A fan, like we all are. My grandparents are from the Yukon, Whitehorse, Yukon, and my dad met my mother during World War II. The Army leased the White Pass and Yukon Railroad to bring oil down, and so that's how they met. He was in the Army up there dispatching trains, because that's what he was doing professionally, a train dispatcher and railroad telegraph operator. So every couple of years, my grandparents would take the bus all that way, which is about, I think, 4,000 miles. It's like Whitehorse is 1,000 miles north of Seattle, pretty much. So it's way up there. If you drink till the sun goes down in the summer, you're drinking all the time because the sun doesn't set. And so one time they were planning a trip, and my dad asked, what would you like to do? Well, they listened to the race on the radio, right? Because it goes anywhere in the world, you can hear the Indy 500. They'd listen to it. Said, well, we'd like to see that, because they always came in May. So we went, and then we kept going as a family, and I just really loved it and wanted to get more and more involved, and so I've been blessed to do that over the years. So that's how it started. So thank goodness for the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Radio Network broadcasting on the AM station in Whitehorse, Yukon. I get to be with Don K here tonight.
If Sid Collins only knew.
If he only knew, yeah. What? Back to you in the tower, Sid.
Yeah. Again, the designations and degrees you have and the places that you oversee and teach and guide the youth of America, I hope, it's just amazing you have time for this. I mean, this IRMA thing is not, they call me when you're ready and I'll show up and we'll dig a hole in the ground. Where do you find the time to do all this? And your wife, of course, she loves it. She calls me constantly. Tell her to quit calling me. I'm getting
well,
trouble
she's wanting you to book me on the show so that you can watch me on Tuesday evening, give her a break. But she's not here.
I know. I wasn't looking for her.
Okay.
I see somebody is here that I had invited, and he's watching television. Mr. Miller, if you're not busy.
What was your question, Don? How do I have time?
Yeah, how do you have time?
Somebody the other day asked someone else this question, and I thought the answer was really good and probably the same for all of us, and that is you find time for your passions, right? I mean, you find time to do what you want to do and what you're passionate about. And so it's all in scheduling and following your passion and taking advantage of opportunities.
I said you're involved with several colleges. You're involved with a number of different courses, I guess I should say. But what's your? You have 2 PhDs.
I have a PhD and an EDD, Doctor of Education, Doctor of Philosophy, Doctor of Education.
So that means I got to call you Dr. Eutsler?
It means if you come to me, I bill you twice, is what it means. Yeah.
Oh.
or in Don's case, 3 times. Yeah, kind of like the Trinity.
Yeah. You and Brian over coffee, I'm sure, or soda pop or something.
I had a conversation in his living room.
In his living room,
yes.
so it was probably coffee. And came up with this idea for IRMA.
Yep.
I have tried, I think I've been following you and talking with you about this almost since the inception. And I remember in some of our conversations, you said, these things aren't free. They're made out of brass, they're rather
Right.
expensive. They're $3,000 or $4,000 or $5,000 a piece. And you were struggling and hustling around to find ways to raise money. That's all changed, pretty much.
Well, it really changed from the start. We thought we might do 3 or 4 markers a year because they're each about $3,000. So we were thinking, okay, we'll have to go into communities and probably a few hundred at a time, raise that money over time. And one of the first places we went, I think our 3rd marker was in Crawfordsville, near where I live. And the mayor said, oh, yes, just in the first meeting. I thought he was going to say, we'll think about it. But no, he said, I remember when the Holiday Inn would sell out for 3 days. And we were a banner community. Y'all remember the banner communities where the banner across the street would have the race day and the qualification day, and they were around central Indiana and called banner communities. Crawfordsville was that. He said, I want to bring that spirit back here. And so it was for Howdy Wilcox, who was born there, actually born 129 years ago on Sunday when we did the Crown Hill event, was his anniversary of his birth. And he said, I'll be glad to fund that. And it's been similar to that everywhere we've gone, even the smaller town of Veedersburg, where we did a marker for the Wabash Clay Company, which produced most of the bricks that went into the track. Said, yes, we have a development commission funded through a TIF district, because we thought, oh my goodness, it's going to take a while to raise that much money in a small town. And the redevelopment commission was in 2 meetings, and we were done and had the funding for it. So we've been met with that type of success in fundraising throughout our less than 5 years of existence, and so it's really taken off. I mean, we have more than 33 markers in the ground at this point.
And you've got several more before the end of the year.
We do, yes.
And whom might they be recognizing?
On Thursday, August 16th, there will be one at Bloomington Speedway honoring Bloomington Speedway and the Kinzers. So
is that the place they call Kinzer Speedway?
That's the place. When you called today and I mistakenly answered, I used the term Kinzer Speedway. He had me all flustered, if you can believe that. I couldn't believe I was talking to the great Don Kay, who used to share an office with Paul Harvey. Ask him about the rest of the story sometime. And there it is. What? And then on Labor Day weekend, we'll be at Lucas Oil Raceway to unveil a marker for the great Bob Glidden. And we believe that will be permanently placed. I think he was from Whitesville, or Whiteland, and be permanently placed there. And then we've got a few more. We're anticipating in South Bend for Studebaker and STP, and then one near there in Lakeville for Hoosier Tire. Those have not been set yet, but we anticipate those would be later in the fall. And also in the fall, the IRMA, American Racing Memorial Association, will unveil its first marker, which will be in Fresno for the great Bill Vukovich, and then in Tinley Park for the Bentonhausens. Yeah, let's hear it for that. Isn't that great? So we're really looking forward to launching IRMA.
Now, when you've approached these people and presented your plan, what you had in mind to do, and they jumped, you had Howdy Bell with you, right?
I did have Howdy Bell with me, and we still got the funding. Yeah. Thank you.
I can imagine that's probably true. It's interesting to me that people it's taken all this time for somebody to come up with the idea. We ought to honor these people.
Well, Howdy has said several times at our meetings, he said, this is something that should have been done 50 years ago. I mean,
but you weren't old enough.
He's made that observation. I was not. I hadn't gone to my first race yet.
Yeah.
But, well, I had 50 years ago, but when he first said it, I hadn't. I've been going since 65, so, yeah, the years add up fast. And so several people have kind of made that same type of observation. We're just glad to be here, doing it this place and time, and I think the timing is right. And there's obviously a lot of interest in Indiana's racing heritage, and that's the IRMA's mission, celebrating Indiana's racing heritage. And we do that mainly through the Historic Legacy Marker Program, and we have some other events too, such as the Crown Hill event. We did a marker last year and then installed a yard of bricks, and 4 of those bricks were from the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, engraved with the founders' names. So that's out there in front of Carl Fisher's mausoleum, is where that yard of bricks is installed. So you can go out there and enjoy it whenever the cemetery is open. And all 4 founders are interred out at Crown Hill, along with about 68 other people with racing connections.
Jim Hurtubise, I believe, is there.
I think so, yeah. And the great Tom Binford is out there, and just so many others. Howdy Wilcox is buried there as well.
I'm sure the people sitting here and those watching live online have noticed there's been another addition to the panel. He is here at my request, and I had to text him and say you said you'd get back to me by 5 o'clock. Is it 5 o'clock yet? And he was busy. He got here. He is the president and CEO of the United States Auto Club and was very much involved in the upcoming racetrack that's going to open in September 5th and 6th. And they run a midget race, and there's already been probably at least a dozen, if not more, top flight drivers that we be there. Please welcome Mr. Kevin Miller.
Thank you, Don. I actually, it was a long day, a good day, but I'll tell you guys a little secret. The very first entry, Tracy Hines in the Wilkie Pack midget coming back out to play with us. So, be fun.
Yeah. I know somebody mentioned, is Kyle Larson going to be here? And he said, you bet it's on the schedule.
Kyle's going to be here. Ricky Stenhouse will be here. Christopher Bell will be here. We've got Rico will be here, of course. Yeah. We are expecting a very large community of racers supporting this. So we're planning 70 cars here, but we might be a little surprised to get more. We don't really want much more than that, because the way the format's going to go, though, first of all, let's talk about the track a little bit. The dirt track's been a vision. It's been a dream. We've talked about it for years. We did the test with the Tony Stewart gift over there and turned out and watched. And a little insight for you how we built that. We took aerial photos of Little Belleville and looked at the blue groove on the track after a race, and we built that blue groove for the test for Tony Stewart. And they went out there and raced, and Clausen, Stewart, and Sarah Fisher, and some other fellows were out there playing around, and it got serious. I mean, they started racing, and they really wanted to race, and it was a fun day. We all sat back and said, we can do this. We can do this here. So Doug and I have been really chatting about it for 2 years. Last fall, he said, let's try this. And it's like the perfect storm that happened. Talking to a few people that were in our ranks, obviously funding to build a dirt track is, hauling in 1,000 truckloads of dirt and 350 cubic yards of cement, and the post, things I'm learning. One post for the fence is $1,000.
So how many posts are you going to have?
53 posts.
Oh, boy.
The fencing, the cabling, the 7 strands of 3/4-inch cabling. It's a very expensive proposition. But things just fell into place. So this has been on, off, and if you're close to it, we were ready to announce it May 1st. We were ready to announce it June 1st. We've been on, off, and literally until the moment we hauled dirt in last Monday, I didn't know if it'd be real or not. But as we hauled the dirt in, and Reese O'Connor came down from Kokomo, we actually flew GPS drones over Kokomo, took all the readings, came down here, putting the dirt in those positions, and it's just, it's fun how it goes through. And it kind of came together last night when Doug Bowles and we went up in the top of turn 3 stands. Now, we're bringing stands in by the dirt track, but we thought, you know what would be the view like? It just looks far away. We went to turn 3. We sat there last night at 8 o'clock, and we both looked at each other and said, this is a very, very enjoyable spot to watch this race. One, there's no dirt, but you've got a 60-foot jumbo screen right there in turn 3. You've got all the audio, PA systems. You've got an incredible view overlooking the whole track, and in the background, this pagoda sitting there. And we just sat there, and this is what it's all about. This is why we're building the track at Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and this is why people want to race here. So that track came together, and we're very, very, it was a great day, a great official announcement of getting the Brian Clausen name into it, which was important to us. Robin Miller did leak this last week, but the leak wasn't bad. When Robin called, literally we'd hauled in 20 truckloads. Next thing, Robin's calling Doug Bowles and saying, hey, what's going on? And there's going to be a helicopter there in 10 minutes. You better tell me. So Doug calls and said, I just got this message from Robin Miller. What do you want to do? And I said, tell him. Hey, we'll have 2 announcements. So within hours, there had been 5,000 shares of the Racer.com article. The next day, 6,200 shares. And according to Robin, the biggest story Racer broke all year. It did just put a comparison. There were several stories on Racer.com that same day. I don't know, Honda engines, all these, the McLaren thing, 150 shares, 160 shares, and we're sitting out there at 6,200 shares. I'm thinking, we're onto something here.
I might mention that some of the people behind helping make this happen, number one is somebody that everybody will know, the Harding Group.
Yeah.
They're the ones hauling the dirt in. You've got another West Side Tractor is involved.
Yep.
Pele Excavating.
Petrie. So
Petrie, I'm sorry.
there are a couple people that really, without their help, I don't know what we'd be doing. But like I said, it was a perfect storm. Things came together. Harding, we went to Mike Harding and said, you got a lot of trucks. So, again, perfect storm. He also had some dirt in a right location he needed to get rid of. And he said, I have all the dirt you need. And it's good dirt. So Harding has been hauling all the dirt, and like I said, 1,000 truckloads of dirt coming in. Westside Tractor has supplied all the equipment with GPS on the tractors. So one of the plans will be when after our race in September, we'll actually kind of take the track out, not remove the dirt. We'll move the dirt around because people need to park there for the Indy 500. There's a lot of parking spots. We'll reshape the dirt so it's flat and maybe put some dirt against the wall so they can still park inside that location. But it's all GPS mapped. So when we come back after the Indy 500, the tractor will move the dirt automatically right back to where it was. So we've got some plans. And then Petrie Excavating. Scott Petrie, if you don't know, he is a midget team owner and actually owns several of our top midgets. He has volunteered his time and some of his equipment, and he was out there when the first loads of dirt came in to start moving the dirt in the right locations. And Reese O'Connor of Kokomo is pointing his finger where to move it to. And a story that Reese will tell you. So we've been, how do you build a dirt track? How GPS, do all this. And Reese just sits there and chuckles because how Kokomo was built, and he'll tell you the story. He bought Kokomo, I think, in 2004, and he didn't really like how it raced. It was like a paperclip, like a lot of tracks are built. People design a circle, on paper, and it looks good on a paper. It doesn't race very well. And, when cars come out of the corner, there's a lot of momentum to take it right to the wall. And if you got a paperclip, you're going to hit the wall. So what Reese did is he drove in his pickup truck and around in circles. His brother laid in the back of the bed, laying down with a spray can of paint, and they went round and round and round and kept spraying. And that's the line that the wall is on at Kokomo right now. So, it's fun to sit down with the guys at IMS. You probably know how structured Indianapolis Motor Speedway is. And, they're looking for the CAD drawings and where the, everything is. And you got some dirt boys in there going, we're going to build a circle. And literally a week ago, we had 2 posts staked with some string, making radiuses, looking at aero overheads. Levi Jones and O'Connor, Reese O'Connor, were sitting there talking about how will this race, and literally shaping the walls and the outside walls based on how the cars will race. I think that's going to be a big difference in this track. To put it in perspective for you, many of you guys have probably been to the Chili Bowl. The Chili Bowl is a very small track. The corners are 40 feet wide with very much little banking. This track is 60 feet wide in the corners. The banking will be 8 degrees. It will be racy. You'll see midgets on the bottom, you'll see midgets on the top, and it's progressive banking, which Reese says is you basically are penalizing the guys at the bottom for taking the bottom because it's so wide. The guys at the top are going to be fast, but they get the advantage of the bank. So that progressive will keep them very racy and very much together. So it should be some very good action.
I hate to break Robin's heart, but I heard about it, and and I sent a message to Doug. In fact, I sent one to Mark Miles as well at the same time, and I said, I just heard this about an hour ago. And they said, stand by, yeah. And Mark's answer was, yep.
Yeah, like I said, it was touch and go for a long time, because when you're talking to people like Mark, who respect very much, but I'm not sure Mark knows much about dirt track racing. So when you talk about putting a dirt track inside Indianapolis Motor Speedway, there's a lot of sensitivity. There was one discussion that was kind of chuckling to me about, well, how do we remove the dirt from before the NASCAR race off the track? Like, they literally thought it'd be like an inch of dirt from the blow-off. And I said, well, you get a fire hose if we have to, but it's, they thought they'd have to be peeling it off. So, without understanding all the dynamics, it really takes one trip to Kokomo on a Sunday night to really understand what you're getting involved with. Now, the question is, this is a Wednesday, Thursday, it's after summer, how many people really will show up? And, it's one of those things we can't plan. It's a first-time event, and we're going to plan for what we plan. We got great seating in Turn 3 stands. That's an overflow. And we'll see as the ticket sales come in and the entries come in.
Well, I know they're building grandstand for 5,000 at the moment. I was anticipating it would be on the Turn 3 side, but obviously that's not true. Otherwise, you'd be blocking the view other than the pagoda.
Well, that was the original plan.
That's what I thought.
The original plan was traditional. You put grandstands along the front straightaway, which was on the Turn 3 side, so the fans would be looking at the pagoda in the background, and a linear row of 5,000 seats. That was the original plan. As we're getting feedback and concerns that it's not enough seating, we are looking at the main grandstands in play. Like I said, when we set up there last night, it made us rethink the layout of the track. Now, the track won't change, but where the grandstands will be, there's even been some discussion of leaving what we call the front straightaway, now the back straightaway, open towards so there's no wall there, and the fans in the main stands can actually see the perfect oval. So that's TBD, I would say, the next couple of weeks as we lock down the seating arrangements, because it's obviously the bleachers there will be temporary bleachers and where they sit. Right now, the dirt still has to be, we're about halfway through the dirt. That should be done by next Tuesday. And once the dirt's done, the wall is formed, then we start talking about where we locate the grandstands. So a lot of work to be done in the next 30 days, but shaping up good.
Now, Mark, you are aware that it won't be long, you'll be putting a marker there.
I was just thinking that, yes.
The first historic track inside the Speedway. And I've had people say to me, I guess foolishly, how in the world can they do that? I said, are you kidding? They could put 5 Roman Coliseums in there and have room for probably 8 or 10 NFL stadiums. So there's all kinds of room. Yeah. But I wondered about the parking myself. Yeah. Where are Mark and I going to be able to park?
Well, the pit parking will be pretty much along the back straightaway. As you enter Turn 3, there's a triangle-shaped piece of land by the restroom back there. That will be the pit parking. There'll be VIP parking on the opposite side of the track. So coming out of the turn, is it the Tunnel 9, I believe, the entrance? When you pull out of there, there'll be VIP parking. There'll be general main parking inside in the end lot behind the Tower Terrace. So it's just a short walk down Holman. And then there'll be free parking outside. You'll walk under the tunnel to get in. So there's plenty of parking. And we have 300,000 limited view seats there too. So,
Doctor, you and I heard VIP, and that immediately you went like.
I was thinking I need to get with Don Kay about how to get in that lot.
That's how you get thrown out. Don't mention my
okay.
name.
Okay.
I think VIP parking is only $25, so just hang in there. We'll get the tickets on sale.
Oh boy.
Okay.
Well, so much for that idea. Things like this fall into your vision, I would think, with IRMA, because this is something that I know they've talked about. I've mentioned it several times after they did the Tony stuff. When are you going to put one in? Well, they've been thinking about it for quite some time. But this is something that will fall in your grasp at some point, not this year because it hadn't run yet, but.
Right, it really will, and we talk about this occasionally too. Historic versus contemporary historic, which sounds like a contradiction. But as things are emerging and having historic significance, like this track, or like tracks where IndyCar run around the country, I mean that's a pretty big deal. I think sometimes we almost take it for granted because we have it here all the time, right, with the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and have all of our lives. But cities where those races run, it's a pretty special event. And so we've talked about that, how to strike that balance of doing the purely historic with the what is historic in the here and now.
Kevin, is there a purse for this been announced, been figured out
Yeah, we've
yet?
already announced the purse. $67,000 purse, $15,000 to win, $1,000 to start, $10,000 in other incentives we're adding in. All total, you'll probably add up to almost $80,000, which is the largest purse in midget racing today.
Jeez, I guess.
Nobody pays $15,000 to win. Nobody pays $1,000 to start. So we feel pretty good about that.
Has Tony Stewart made any indication he might show up?
Tony. He may show up. I don't foresee Tony getting into a car, but
Well, I would think he would be.
he's
on
been
it.
invited.
Oh,
I
I'm sure he
personally
has.
made the invitation myself, so we'll see when he comes back. I
Well-
won't comment on his response, but
Oh, come on! I'm sure he'd answer you. If nothing else, you should have him as the wave the green flag.
yeah, it'd be nice to have some of those guys back. Jeff Gordon, people like that, as part of this. I know originally when we talked about this in February, Jeff was very excited about the idea of it. Now, his schedule with Fox not doing this race, I'm not sure what his plan would be to be here, but like I said, for our first entry to be Tracy Hines, who's not been in a midget in a couple of years, or maybe the Chili Bowl, but for him to come out of retirement. That's how important this race is. I'll tell you another story today that kind of wowed me. Eddie Sachs Jr. came up to me at the press announcement. And I've known Eddie. Eddie's had a Silver Crown car for a few years. And he drove here today from Detroit to be at the press announcement. And he said, I'm going to find a midget. And I need my father's name back at the Speedway.
Yep.
So that's how important it is for people. And right then I realized how big this race could be. And so, we're all sitting back looking at the shares and looking at the likes and the comments. People from Australia are calling us to book flights right now. We've had entries from people we don't even know and already enter the race to race. So like I said, we can pretty much count 67 cars in our head. And then you got all the ones you don't know that are going to come out. So we're very excited.
I passed by Mr. Bowles and I said, from what I've heard, and the emails and texts I've gotten on this thing, it's going to be done well. I said, are you going to use this? You're putting in full concrete walls. I mean, they're not putting stuff with a post, and if they're putting concrete walls in the ground, so it's a serious effort. Is there any thought about running others? He said, well, we got to get the first one. I said, well, it's always been told to me, and I don't know how true it is, but in order to get to number 2, you first got to do number 1.
That's true. I mean, you don't put a permanent concrete wall in place for no reason.
I kind of thought the same thing. That crossed
Now,
my mind.
we're not putting a full concrete wall, but the wall we're putting in the plan right now, and again, with the seating and the demand, things can change on the fly here, but the plan right now is a C-shaped wall. So basically your 2 turns and this front straightaway will be poured. The back stretch will be a temporary wall using the Formula One temporary walls they have. That way we can leave that openness for parking for the 500. There's a lot of money they make in parking, and we can't take a big chunk of that away.
Well, you could, but they'll bill you for it.
Well, yeah. We're seeing some of those things too.
You and I were talking back, I don't know, a month ago or so, and I said, how is USAC? Is it healthy? And you said, oh boy.
I smile. We're not making much money, but I smile because of the difference today versus 10 years ago. And what people don't know, what USAC is doing, and we're not going around and telling a lot of, boasting things. I'm sitting here watching an off-road race, and we got involved in 2009 with Torque Off-Road. And that was a gorilla. I'll be honest, Torque Off-Road consumed my energy, my attention. We had no employees. To put in perspective, in 2007, we had USAC sprint cars, midgets, and Silver Crown. We had 17 employees. Today we have 12. Today we have USAC sprint cars, midget, and Silver Crown. We added off-road in 2009. In 2010, we added quarter midgets. In 2013, we added a rally. We added Robbie Gordon, so we do the Robbie Gordon Stadium trucks. We added Rally Cross. We added Pirelli Road Challenge 2 years ago, which is a really big one for us. Formula Race Promotion, which is Formula Atlantic Series out in the East Coast. Karting, we added last year, a division of karting. And so we have less employees doing about 400 times more work. And it's just a zoo. And when I look at this summer for me, personally for me, I can't wait till September 9th. I'd be honest, it's going to be a crazy summer. Next week we have 400 to 500 quarter midgets at the Speedway. The same weekend we have 300 to 400 carters at the Speedway, all called the Battle of the Brickyard. A major, major event for us. We follow that with Indiana Sprint Week, which we're launching at Plymouth this year for many, many reasons. But Plymouth, Indiana will be kicking off Indiana Sprint Week. 2 weeks later, we're back in the same area in Elkhart, Indiana for the Elkhart Grand Prix, which USAC brought back after a 20-year hiatus for the mayor of Elkhart last year. Very successful race. And then we follow up with this race here. All in the meantime, every weekend, almost every night, there's a USAC event somewhere in the country that our staff is attending to while we're planning to put the biggest midget race on in history here at the Speedway. So it's quite an endeavor what we've got. At the same time, our building, and most of you around Speedway know that we've got a major undertaking going on at the corner of 16th and Georgetown for our building. Our building is completely gutted. We have no office. We're all mobile. Tony George has been kind enough to allow us in the Sonics building with 2 offices, but we're completely mobile. Our building it's totally gutted down to just blocks. That's all that was left. We opened back up January 2019. It's called Workspace with a Y. We put the Y in work. And it's a whole new business adventure where USAC will only have about 15% of the building. We have 4 offices. Of the 24 permanent offices, 4 are USAC. Our partners in the building who are going to be moving in, we have the FIA, who's going to have an office there. Pirelli Road Challenge will have an office there. VP Fuels, American Rally Association. And then we're also going to sell co-working or co-sharing office space. So you can come in with a membership, and we use our Wi-Fi, but we're going to have a bar, a big open area, garage door that opens to the street. It's going to be a very, very cool office. All glass, all wood beams from barn construction. It's a very exciting time for USAC. And I've already told some people, when I go to our banquet at PRI, we always do our banquet on Friday night at PRI, I'm literally going to invite 4 of my staff members up. I'm going to thank my CFO for the building. I'm going to thank Levi Jones for the track. Jason Smith, a lot of people, you don't even see Jason Smith before. He is literally at a Robbie Gordon event this weekend, probably next weekend. Then he goes to American Rally Cross at COTA. Then he'll bump over to American Rally Association in the woods. We're all over the place. And we have a great staff that stays glued together, and they text all night jokes because it's the only way we can keep sane lately. So bottom line is we're not making money, we're having a lot of fun, but it's all good. We're growing, and that's the key.
I think Fluffy and I are going to go. Is the bar open to just off the street?
The bar will be open all the time. I'm gonna find a beer sponsor, so we're just gonna have a good time in that. So that's the plan. We will have a bar and we'll have fun.
Fluffy, did you hear that?
My other plan is to get 2 iRacing machines in there, so we're always having competitions with iRacing as well.
Doctor, I think you and I should stop by there once, if it ever gets open.
I think so.
January, he said it'll be open.
It should be
so.
the new headquarters for Don K International.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
No.
It's not that much rent.
What's that?
It's not much rent.
You know, I am pleased that you took the time. I know you were busy meeting with the builders and trying to kick them started and get their heart moving so they get the job done. But you took the time to stop here. I think, you know, I've often wondered. Now, I'll admit, I'm one when they said, we had Tony in here one night, and we said, have you talked to Bernie lately? He said, I haven't. I need to talk to him. And I said to him, would you guys entertain Formula One? Sure. So he did, and obviously it came here. You know, the things that have, and I wasn't real happy. I thought, the same when NASCAR came. I thought, come on, this is the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Good grief. But it's worked out. People like it, and they're doing what they can to help build it. I think that's great. You know, I have now decided that they pay taxes on the place every day, so they might as well use it. If they can have a musical venue, a concert, and make money because they got a pretty good sized loan they got to pay off at some point in time. So I have adopted in my mind that it's a new time, a new day, new era. Utilize the property for what it can be used for, and good for them.
Yeah.
And I think bringing USAC in to handle it. Now, if they were to run other events, would they be USAC events, or could some other series bobble in the door?
The answer to that is it'll be USAC events. We built the track, we paid for the track, and so our agreement with them is that's a USAC track. And quite frankly, they don't want content. This is a special event track.
Yeah, I understand.
Already a karting group called to try and book the track today. This is a very unique track. We're going to get by one race and see where we go next year. But the plan is special events, very special events only, like the Indy 500 is special. That's how this track is operating. No way will be a weekly track. No way we'll have just races. Obviously, in the future, the talk about a sprint week race, maybe. You know, ending our season in October in front of our home crowd with a sprint midget doubleheader sounds like a good idea in the future. But until we get by race one and see what we're dealing with, you know, there's a lot of logistics. And, you know, I have to give a lot of credit to Doug Bowles. Doug faced a lot of fury and fire to get this put in place. You know, it's one thing to vision it and USAC to pay for it and say, Doug, we got your back. Go in there and fight. You know, we did try and take all the risk away from the Speedway because we are that confident we are taking a gamble. But without Doug's help and Doug's leadership, to sell this internally, very difficult, you know, and I give him a lot of credit for doing that.
It's amazing what he's done for the Speedway. I mean, a lot of people didn't know that much about it, but they know Doug Bowles.
Yeah.
And the presidents that have been around since I've been there, I mean, John Cooper was a great guy.
Yeah.
But he wasn't like Doug is out talking to the people anytime, anywhere. He'll stop and talk to you, unless he's taking Beth out and she says, "Don't talk. Let's have dinner and be quiet."
Yeah.
Well, I thank you for your time. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
you
Thanks for
coming
the invite.
and telling us what's going on. And Doctor, listen, when I pass away, I know there'll be a huge thing. You got to put a marker wherever the hell he's going. Don't do it. Either that or make it out of cardboard so it'll just disappear in a few days. my hat is off to you and your partner and your team for what you guys have accomplished and the attraction that you've gotten, because you know a lot of times when you go with motorsports people in particular to go, as Kevin will tell you, you know, they got to kind of lay everything out. Your word is gold. If you say we're going to do it and we're going to do it upside down and we'll have Howdy standing on his head, that I would pay money to see, incidentally. It will happen.
Well, thanks for recognizing that. I mean, that's the way we wanted to operate from the start, and because you know your word is the kind of the coin of the realm, and it's all about your integrity. And you know, it's not to say everything we set out to do turns out as you'd mentioned, you know, the way you plan it, but you have conversations. And so if you have to reset, you let people know, you keep people informed, and I think we have responded to that. So I appreciate you recognizing that and calling that out for us, because that's certainly the way we want to be known, is that when we say something, we do something.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time on the last minute like you have. I'm sorry that when you looked on your phone and saw who it was, I hope you said something nice, like, oh no, at the very least.
I said, it said, the ID said Don K. Limo Service. So I don't know. So of course I answered it, right? Because I think I'm going to get a ride somewhere. And indeed I did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I took you for a ride. You're right. I appreciate you coming as well. And good luck. And as things progress, you'll hear from me. As you know, you don't call me because I call you.
You do. And I appreciate you staying in touch. And I
boy.
appreciate being able to be on the show and talk about the things we're doing, and it's really our entire board and our advisory board and our members and our sponsors and all of you who come to our events. We've had over more than 15,000 people attend IRMA unveiling events in just the past 5 years. The 36 events that we've had, so it's been tremendous outpouring of support for those. So thank you for that.
Keep it up.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here. Dr. Mark Eutsler of IRMA and the President and CEO of the United States Auto Club, Kevin Miller. My other guest is sitting here, and she will start coming this way. I had to beg to get her to come in this thing. I don't want to do that. People will look at me. Yeah, one of them will be me. First off, excuse me. How many watched or went to see the Road America Kohler Grand Prix? How did you like the race? Was it a good race?
Oh, it was a great race.
Oh yeah, okay. Did you like the winner? Well, that's two people. Okay. Next up
I
for
think he's okay.
I'm sorry?
I think he's okay.
You think everybody.
A
If you
reigning
come and do
series
this.
champion.
Is that what he was?
It sure is.
Oh, I thought he paid somebody for number one. I want to mention that next up is this Sunday at 2 o'clock Eastern Time. That's July the 8th. Is the Iowa Corn 300 from the beautiful town of Newton, Iowa. It will be live on NBC Sports Network at 2 o'clock Eastern Time, but you can follow the practice and qualifying on racecontrol.indycar.com, and you'll hear the charming voice of Mark Janes and Anders Krohn, who I think is doing a phenomenal job. So, and all of the staff they have there, they're all good racing people, and you'll enjoy it. If you're looking for insurance, be it for your car, your home, or your commercial building, you've got to call VP Insurance. They're located at 5004 West 16th Street in Speedway. Give Mike Pardee a call. He'll help you out. Trust me, 317-248-0070. That's VP Insurance in Speedway, 317-248-0070. Talk to Mike Pardee. He will help you out. And if you like vintage racing, you've got to get a hold of the Vintage Racing Quarterly. So go to svra.com and subscribe to it. It's a beautiful magazine, well done, and a lot of the cars that you saw as a kid are still around, and they're out and they're running. So check it out. Vintage Racing Quarterly, svra.com. Subscribe. There'll be over 300 cars are expected at the 2018 Vintage Celebration at Pocono Raceway, promoted and managed by Classic Racing Times. This August, several divisions will include historic Indy and stock cars on a 2.5-mile tricky triangle, as well as smaller car divisions on the 1/5 mile at the front straightaway under the lights. The event is the 17th, 18th, and 19th at Pocono. If you're going out there, be sure and get there and take a look at it. It'll be a lot of fun, a good event. My next guest is somebody that I have been begging. One time I called and she said, well, I would like to, but I've got to meet with my sorority sisters. Oh, okay, it has to be on
Not
a
one
Tuesday.
bit of this story is true, and don't believe it for a second. Don't
Then I
believe it
called
for one
the other
second.
day, last week, or I texted her and said, can you do it this week? Last week. She said, no, I'm in Paris. I don't know if it was Paris, France, or Paris, Illinois, for all I know. I don't know. But this time she had no excuse. I put the pressure on, and she's here. She is the manager of media nationwide. So if you read something in Dubuque, Iowa, she done it.
Absolutely.
And I am very happy to have her here tonight. She is with IndyCar and does event coordination and all kinds of interesting things. Are you all right? You got a back problem? Oh, yes, you did. You want to stand up? Oh, okay. She lied. Please welcome Kate Guerra. I finally made it. You got tired
Don,
of the
I
tears,
have been waiting
didn't you?
7 years for this moment. 7 years.
Yeah, but 7 years ago, you weren't old enough to get in here.
Well, that's not too far off. I will admit to that.
No, you got a degree in journalism from IU,
I did.
sports journalism.
Sports journalism.
And then you went all the way to Texas to get a BS. Why did you have to go to Texas? Isn't IU good enough?
So I did that backwards, actually. I went to Texas first, where I'm from originally.
That's not what your thing said to me.
It sure is what that thing said.
All right, I'm wrong again.
I started my educational career in college at the University of Texas at Austin. And then I made my way over here and became a Hoosier. Been a Hoosier ever since.
What sports journalism? What sport did you have in mind when you did that?
Not this one, I'll tell you that, Don. No, I had no racing background whatsoever, did not grow up with it, and just very slowly fell in love with it, fell in love with the community and the family part of it. But I grew up very deep South Texas, a little city called McAllen, Texas, down on the border of Mexico. And I grew up a football fan. I grew up a baseball fan. I would say baseball's probably my favorite sport. I love golf.
It was your favorite sport.
It was my favorite. It's my favorite personal sport.
Oh,
You have
okay.
to keep the work and the professional loves different there. But yeah, I loved golf. I loved volleyball. I loved all different kinds of sports, and racing was just never on my radar until I moved to Indianapolis, Indiana, and the rest is history from there, I guess.
Did you apply for the job, or did they come chasing you?
I applied for the job. So in my last semester, I was actually still a graduate student when I started with IndyCar. My last semester of graduate school, they reached out to my program for looking for interns. And I applied, and Arnie Schrieben, who many of you might know, hired me after I begged him to let me take the job. And then they told me, it's just for the month of May. It was the 2011 Indy 500 was my first race. And they said, just come for the month of May. We need some help. We need some extra hands. It's a busy time for us. And then after that, I just kept showing up to work. And no one told me not to come to work anymore. No one told me, what are you still doing here? What are you doing? So around September, someone finally looked at me and they said, should we hire you? Are you done with school? And I said, I'm done with school. I'm completely available for hire, and been there ever since.
Now, I got to ask this, from May to September, were you sustaining yourself waitressing?
No, I was sustaining myself on an intern schedule.
Oh.
I was a journalism student, as you mentioned, so I was trying to do I worked for an Indiana high school sports website for a while. So I traveled all around metropolitan Indianapolis, covering any high school sport that needed a story written on it. So I sustained myself in that way.
Oh, okay. I was getting a little nervous. I thought maybe you were at
So
Burger
was I
King.
at the time, Don.
I can imagine. Now, your title is Senior Manager of National Media or something. I forget what all it
Correct.
is.
No, you got all the way there.
Wow. I wonder how I did that. What does that mean? What do you do? Now, I know at the racetrack, you're all over. You coordinate things and make things happen. But what does your job entail with the national media?
I like that description, actually. Just make things happen. That's it. I feel like that's a good resume builder. My role as Senior Manager of National Media Outreach for IndyCar involves going to some of the top markets in the U.S., so thinking New York, L.A., Chicago, and bringing in IndyCar to a mainstream audience. So that may be people that are casual race fans. That may be people like myself when I first started in IndyCar who've never watched an IndyCar race before, and we're going to try to get them to start watching. And so I pitch the series storylines, the personalities of our drivers, and try to get new fans into the sport. Obviously, the goal is to increase TV ratings, ticket sales, and placing drivers on national mainstream opportunities that'll introduce them to a new audience that may not be watching racing currently.
Now you mentioned New York, Chicago, Los Angeles. What about Peoria, Illinois, or some of these other places that they have a racetrack, and it used to be very popular racing down there. It used to be great. I used to go there all the time. But do you pick just the major cities, or do you try and get the word out to the little guy who might pack his car and come to an event?
So our department is divided into three sections. So I work for the communications PR department for IndyCar. So we have 3 divisions there. We have an editorial division. So anything you read on IndyCar.com, anything that you might see in a press release, if you receive those, that all goes through our editorial department. Then we have my section of the department that's focused on the national outreach. And then we have a separate section called Media Advance Program. And that program focuses on markets just like the ones you just mentioned, all of our race markets, all of the cities around our race markets. So, for example, when we go to Barber, we might do some media things in Atlanta since it's just a short drive away. We might go to Nashville since it's just a short drive away, and focus on those markets as well.
Can you see results from what you're doing, from where you're going? Are you seeing, if you go to Nashville, that they in fact show up at Birmingham? Or do you do anything in Birmingham? Because Mr. Barber is fairly well known there. So if he says, "Hey, y'all come and see me," yes, sir.
Oh, absolutely. Mr. Barber runs a tight ship over there. No, we do a lot in Birmingham, actually. We do a lot in all of our race markets. So that program that I mentioned, which actually up until this year was my role and responsibility. We send drivers to our races and the cities that we race in, I would say maybe 2 to 3 months before the race event starts. And we take them to every TV show, to every newspaper, to every radio station in the city, making sure that people know the race is coming up and where they can go buy tickets and where they can see things. So yeah, we see a good bit, especially it helps that reigning champion that you mentioned, who is actually from a little city called Nashville, Tennessee.
Yeah.
Helps having him, to use him there. Get some folks out to Birmingham and get the Nashville market watching IndyCar more. They have the hometown guy.
He is a very fan-friendly. I had him on here when he first came up, when he was in the lights, I think, and he was kind of lost, but not anymore. He's seasoned. He's done
certainly
really
not
well.
lost anymore. I think he's found his way quite well.
But he doesn't have quite the cackle power that James Hinchcliffe has.
You think so?
Last time I saw Hinch, I said, "By the way, you're responsible for me filing bankruptcy." He said, "Why? What did I do?"
That's a lot of pressure, Don.
What did I do? I said, "You convinced me I bought 5 Hondas. Now I can't pay for them." He just cackled at that.
He'll do that. Yeah, he's good at. He'll talk you into some stuff. That's for sure.
Do you have trouble getting drivers to go if you have a particular one that you want to send in an area? Do you have trouble with them, or they say, "Sure, let's go"?
No, they know exactly what the situation is in terms of where IndyCar sits in the mainstream world, and that they need to put some extra effort forward to make sure that we're getting more out there. So we have a few required appearances that they have to give us throughout the season as part of the Leader Circle agreement that we have with the teams. When that number is 7 media appearances a year for each driver. When you think of 20 plus drivers, it's quite a number of media appearances. But oftentimes we'll go over that number and we'll say, "Hey, I really need you to go do this. This is why it's valuable." It's never even a fight. They understand it completely.
Well, when the 500 ratings came back, everybody was kind of upset. So I sent a message to Mark, and I said to him, "That's a television. What about people that look at it in their handphone or on their internet? Can you count that?" "Well, I know you can, because I can count mine. I don't show it, but I can count it."
Right.
That's not taken into consideration because this is a new world.
It's tough, and it's funny that you bring that up, because I was actually just having this conversation with myself earlier about TV ratings and thinking of our radio broadcast, I heard the number of people that listened into the radio broadcast for the Indy
amazing.
500 was incredible.
Yes.
I can't remember what it was off the top of my head, but I think I saw it on Twitter, and I was flabbergasted of the number of people watching it there. TV ratings, I think I read today, will take into account if you record something on your DVR, if you watch it before, I think it's 3 a.m. Eastern, they'll count it in the TV ratings for that program. But I don't know how many people are doing that. I don't know how many people are watching on their phone versus watch. There's even ways you can watch on social media now. The options for digital media and new media and the way people are consuming this content is different, and it's changing every year. And you never know. Obviously, the goal is always to increase TV ratings, but when you think of what that might mean in today's world, it's hard to use that as your sole measurement of success.
Last time I had Buddy McAtee, used to be vice president of IMS Productions, he said, mark my word, in 5 years, network television will be secondary to the internet, to the electronic world. And he's absolutely right.
I completely agree. agree.
And some of the people were here said, oh, you've got to be kidding. He said, no, you watch and see. Well, unfortunately, he didn't live long enough to say that what he told me was absolutely true. And it's getting, this one is we're on live stream on Facebook, among other places.
Absolutely.
And it's amazing what happens. And I think I'll go through a stand once in a while. When I go to a race, I'll go through the grant, and the number of people sitting at the race live and in color, and they're watching the damn thing on their handheld. What the hell's the sense of that?
Some people do what we call a second screen experience, right? So they may be watching it on TV, but they also want to see what all their friends are saying about it on Twitter, or they also want to see what they may be listening to the radio broadcast and watching it on TV. Maybe they're watching, one or the other on mute because they prefer the radio broadcast, whatever it might be. People are watching it in so many different ways now.
I hate to tell you this because you're going to say, you've got to be kidding, but I forget when it was. I campaigned to Speedway to put a camera in a garage, and I got permission to do it 3 days before the track opened. So these guys are scrambling around hooking it up to stream it. Didn't tell anybody it was there, and it drew huge. But the only problem was the guys had to watch their language because it was live on the internet.
What garage was this?
It was Tony Stewart's garage, and I forget what year. I can't remember. Then I had a bright idea one day, and I see all these cameras on practice days, and they're all up working, but they're not doing it. They're just practicing following or whatever they were doing. And I said, why don't we stream that? Oh, we can't do this. Want to bet? So I went to ABC and said, I got an idea. I said, sure, why not? So believe it or not, the first time we did it, they brought a trailer, empty, no air conditioning, but said, here it is, and they ran the cable. So I had my internet provider, who was out of Birmingham, Alabama, strange enough. The guy came up, hooked it all up. I sat in a trailer and just streamed it. It was huge. The second or third year I was doing it, the numbers were astounding. And I called Wally and I said, you want to do it? No, are you kidding? Getting these guys in a couple days early? Oh, well, the last year we did it, the numbers were over 30 million. He called me and said, we're going to put things on an even keel so it's equal all the way around, so we're going to bring our guys in. I said, okay. And it's been going on. Not that because of me, it was just there and it was able to be seen.
Well, a lot of projects start that way, very grassroots, and I completely believe you because we started streaming our what we call our spring training. So we do an annual open test at a track before the season starts to let the drivers start preparing for the season. And we started streaming the entire test. We hired a few people from our TV broadcast, from our radio broadcast to put together a little live online show of the test itself. And the numbers that we got streaming wise, just for putting a test, and it's a test that lasts all day long. There's not a lot happening. There's just cars going around a track, and the way that people consumed that on online and on social media was incredible.
Is that any part of what you do to encourage people to do that? If you can't, for whatever reason you're in a hotel and you can't sit and watch your television, or you're somewhere and you've got a Kindle or a laptop or something, do you encourage them to use that and watch our practice? It's streamed live on racecontrol.IndyCar. is that part of your thing? Is if you can't see it anywhere, here it's available this way.
Absolutely. We'd be silly. We'd be absolutely silly not to be encouraging people to do that, because people are looking for that, right? They want to watch in that way. We're not doing it because we think it's, fun. It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of work to get a stream like that. It takes a lot of manpower. There's a lot of cost that goes into it as well. But that's what people are looking for. They're looking for a way to be able to watch that sort of content online. And so we're certainly encouraging it. We put it on all of our tune-in messages, whether it's on our social media channels themselves or in the press releases or the stories we put out. You pretty much go to the bottom of any story on IndyCar.com, and it'll tell you exactly where you can watch the next race or the next event coming up online.
What's it like working with Philip B.?
Philip B. Wilson. Philip B. Wilson is a gem. He is an absolute treat. We love working with him.
I think, whenever I see him with his wife, I bow to her, because he used to be a wild man, and he's not anymore. I'm sure she slapped him around.
He's a married man.
I know. And I approached him in May, and I said, "Do you know who Alice Hanks is?" He said, "No." "You ever hear of Sam?" "Oh yeah, well, it's his widow. She's been here 70. This is her 72nd race. You want to talk to her?" "Oh." And he wrote an article which was spectacular on her.
He's an amazing writer. So up until a couple of years ago, we had pretty much one writer for IndyCar.com, and it was a staff member, and he was an excellent writer. And there was nothing wrong with the content he was putting out, but it was one voice. It was one man's perspective on a lot of things. And so what we've done with IndyCar.com over the past several years is you'll take a lot of writers that maybe don't write about IndyCar all the time, or they used to write about IndyCar and they got laid off. So we have Jeff Olson, who used to write for USA Today. We have Jeff Papone, who used to write for Globe and Mail, and a lot of former motorsports reporters that are now contributing their perspectives and their opinions on the website.
When did Joey Barnes join? I saw that the other day.
Joey Barnes.
Wow.
Joey Barnes is there doing it
know
as
he is.
well,
I
adding
saw
a
it.
lot.
At the track, I said you cover a lot of things. You are the Susie Elliott of the Speedway on the road. What are all your duties when you're at an event?
I wear many hats, Don. So when
Nothing like Riley. You don't wear one like her.
Riley, if you guys know Riley McCarthy from our IndyCar Nation group, from our marketing team, she's everywhere. I don't wear maybe quite as many hats as Riley does. But it varies, especially depending on the market that we're at. So when we're in Long Beach, for example, that's LA. That's a huge market for my specific position personally. So I'm working a lot with the national media out there. When we go to Pocono, we'll swing by New York. So it kind of depends on where we are. But for example, last weekend at Road America, Elkhart Lake, not exactly the largest national market when you're looking at DMAs in the country. So a lot of that, I do my normal sort of racetrack duties, which is I moderate all of our press conferences. I'm our point of contact for any medical emergencies that we have on track. So I'm always prepared and ready for something like that. And I'm just helping. There's always an AP reporter that needs some help. And I'm in my work on the local side over the past 5-6 years on that local media advance side. I know all of these TV people and journalists and writers that come to all of our races. So a lot of them, even though I'm in a slightly different role, still come to me to help out with certain things, set up certain interviews. So there's never a dull moment. And oftentimes, the honest truth of it is, we're a professional sports league just like the NBA, just like the NFL, and we're a seven-person.
No, you're not like either one of those.
Well, my point is
Yeah,
we're doing the work of a professional sports league with 7 people in the PR department. So it's a lot of helping each other out. Sometimes I'm writing stories on IndyCar.com. Sometimes I'm helping with social media. It's all hands on deck for sure.
I've thought of coming up and asking something, but I didn't want you to realize just how stupid I am, so I don't ask.
I don't think you're stupid, Don. Nothing you can say tonight's going to convince me of that.
And can you imagine if she came up and wanted to talk to you, somebody said, "Get away." No, I don't think so. That smile, see, that's it right there. That's what does it. All right. Did your education, starting in Texas and coming to IU, did it prepare you for what you're doing?
I would say that it did in a kind of a roundabout way. When I was in school, I was training to be a journalist, so I wanted to go either into broadcast or into writing. And so when I trained that way, and so I learned, how to write a good story, how to present a story, what's compelling, what's not compelling, ethics, things like that. And then when IndyCar approached my program with this PR position, literally, PR, I'm going to be on ESPN. I'm not getting involved with PR. And so my academic advisor said, look, I think you should give this position a look, because you're going to go to the Indianapolis 500, which again, not on my radar whatsoever at that point. And you're going to meet hundreds of journalists that you're going to help and you're going to build relationships with throughout the month. And one of them or a few of them might help you get a job down the road. And I said, well, that sounds like a really great idea. So that's sort of the way I went into it, is I'm going to make all these connections with all these wonderful media outlets and see if I can land a job at some point. Well, in doing this, I realized you kind of almost are the reporter. You are a storyteller in PR. You're working with media who are looking to you for information on a story. And there's a way to craft it, and there's a way to share it where you still feel like you played a part in the story. So I take a lot of pride when I see a placement that I've gotten through a pitch that I've made, because I feel like I played a part in it. So, and I still get my little writing fix out sometimes on the website, but I'm very happy with the path that I chose. And I feel like that training, to answer your question, as a journalist, as a student, really helped me connect with the journalists and the media that I worked with throughout IndyCar.
There are two members of the IndyCar nation, for lack of a better word, that are graduated from Mizzou, University of Missouri.
From Mizzou? Okay.
Yeah. And that's Jay
Excellent
Fry.
journalism school.
Jay Fry and Jim Aiello, who I think is an excellent writer. He's really doing a phenomenal job.
Did you say Jim Aiello?
Yes.
He's doing an amazing job.
Yeah, he really is.
An amazing job.
If you read what he puts out, you think, geez, he's been here 10 years.
Yes.
He's only been here a couple of years.
Yes.
Really doing well.
And he does, I want to say that too, he does so in a way that's professional. He does it in a way that's ethical. Like, I admire Jim a lot as a journalist. I do.
Yeah, he's very good. And I've told him today, it's time for you to come back in another month or so. We're going to talk about tracks, because I'm sending an email to the higher ups that when Phoenix has gone away, and Mark had made the comment, we'll have a great replacement. I hope to hell it's an oval. And I have about 6 or 8 suggestions for him, none of which he will listen to,
He
of
likes
course.
suggestions.
Oh, yeah, sure he does. I can tell you. Although I'll give him credit. As a CEO, he's got a big organization to run, not only the Speedway, but he's got IndyCar, he's got Terre Haute, the Clabber Girl organization he's oversees. I send him an email, and he's a number of times he's answered me at 11:30 at night.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Geez, don't you sleep?
No, he does not. None of us do.
Not.
That's why we're all very unhappy people. I'm just no. I think the more suggestions, whether it's from yourself or from fans, I think Road America is a great example of what happens when enough people make a suggestion. It was demanded by our drivers. It was demanded by the fans to go back there. And the success that we've seen, attendance was up this year, and it was already huge. So the more suggestions everyone sends over, you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, but see, that's where you can say to yourself, I helped. They could run mules at Road America and draw a crowd. Same with Mid-Ohio. Same with Long Beach. You could run mules backwards, and people would show up. It's a happening. Road America always drew well when IndyCar was there earlier, as the Indy Racing League. It always drew well. And I think the ownership is smart. They know how to promote. They know how to get the word out. We're here. Because I had friends call me from 150 miles away. Said, "Geez, I just read a story about Road America. I didn't know they were there." That's why they print it, so you know.
I hear that a lot. I always hear, well, I didn't know it was there, and we do what we can. That you're never going to reach every single person. There's always going to be somebody that didn't hear about it. But I think it's very apparent. I don't think there's not that many people in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin. Like, the people that came, the whatever number it was, 50, 60,000, they came from all over. They came from Indianapolis, they came from Chicago, they came from Milwaukee. A lot of people that come there are people that used to attend our Milwaukee Mile race, however many years ago. So they're coming in. They're coming in for sure.
Well, I think if instead of saying, the TV ratings are the lowest that ABC's had, I think if you put all of the electronic media in there, that the numbers would be up.
I would agree. And again, going back to the radio broadcast, a lot of people think of radio as a sort of dying art, and I think we're bucking that trend for sure. I don't know what their trends are, whether they're up or down over however the past many years, but our IndyCar radio broadcast, since I started just 7 years ago, not that long ago, feels like forever, but really isn't that long ago, is night and day over what it was then, which was already a great product, to what it is now. You mentioned the addition of Anders Krohn. An amazing addition. He and Mark are just killing it there on the radio broadcast.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing against Davey Hamilton.
No,
but
not at
Davey
all.
approached it from a different angle, and Anders, I think, is doing a great job. And an interesting thing for me is when Mark asks a question, he keeps quiet and lets him answer, because I kept, when I used to be up when he was up sitting in turn 3, or wherever we were in Texas, we were on top of the condos. It always irritated me that sometimes the lead-in was too much, or if a question was asked, I'd interrupt. And I said, when you get there, because I knew he was going to be the voice of the 500 eventually, I said, how many races have you run? He said, none, the same number as I've got. So it seemed to me, if you ask a question of a veteran driver, let him answer the damn thing. What else you got to do? And it's working. I think they're doing a great job.
They are. They're killing it.
So have they brought you up there yet to talk?
No, they haven't.
Oh.
They have not yet.
I'll have to mention that.
Maybe one day. Sometimes I'm typically when we're on track, I need to be fairly alert. I don't know if I could make it up there, but maybe one day.
I mean, you couldn't make it up there. You get lost?
I might get lost.
Oh,
That's true. I get lost daily.
Really? Well, listen, I'll tell you what, I have been wanting to bring you up. I haven't said anything particularly, just thought I got to try and make it happen. And when you said, sure, except I've got a sorority girl meeting this week. I'm in Paris.
It wasn't
Is
in
that
a
Paris,
sorority.
Illinois, by the way?
It was not Paris, Illinois, Don.
Okay. Gee.
It was not.
Oh, boy. Is there any openings? I mean, I could use a job. They got any openings?
People ask me that a lot, Don. I feel I'll save a spot for you.
Oh, boy.
I'll put in a word.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate you
I
taking
think
the
the
time.
lovely people of this establishment would be quite sad to lose you.
No, they'd probably be happy. Are you kidding? Fluffy, sit down.
Fluffy.
Bill, control her, will you? Good luck. Never mind. Listen, I appreciate you coming here and enjoyed talking to you, and you may have a problem.
What's that?
I'll invite you again.
I would love to. I want to state for the record that I have literally been waiting 7 years to be asked to come on this show, and I really have. It's true. And all of my coworkers have been invited on this show, every single one. And I would mention to them, Don hasn't asked me on the show yet, and I'm very offended by this. And they tell me, oh, do you want us to just say something to him? And I'm like, no. Then it won't feel real when he finally one day invites me. I'll feel like it wasn't earned. So this is a moment that we're having, Don. You and I right now.
Really?
We're having a moment.
I will say something that I probably will regret, but I'm going to say it anyway.
Go ahead, Don.
I think what you're doing is great. The job you do is great. The stuff, the organization, everybody enjoys working with you. But you should be on television. I mean, come on. Nicole Briscoe does nice, but you should be there with
Why
her.
don't I just come every once in a while here with you, and we'll be on YouTube and Facebook Live every once in a while.
Oh, yeah, it's on YouTube. It's on.
I live
all
5
over.
minutes down the road, Don. I swing by.
Okay. I won't hold my breath. I'll look a funny color blue the next time you show up.
I don't think so.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you for saying that, Don. That was very nice. I appreciate that.
I appreciate you
having
coming
me.
here. I think the job you're doing and the people you
Thank
work with
you.
are doing a good job. And I hate to see Phoenix go, but I have in my mind several reasons for that,
Yeah.
which nobody cares about, what I think. But I think I have a pretty good idea of what caused the problem.
I mean, it was attendance.
Well,
That's
of
what
course,
it was.
but there are several things that the attendants didn't want to see or wanted to see and didn't happen, and I think there's a reason for that. But
It's a
nobody
nice
asked
city.
me. Oh,
nice
it's great.
People.
It used to be huge.
I actually just wrote I haven't, with the race weekend, I hadn't had a chance to reach out to our colleagues over there at ISM Raceway yet. And today I sent them a note, and it just said, we'll miss you. Don't be a stranger. We appreciate you. And they wrote back a really nice note too. So no friends lost there. Great
Well,
relationship
that's
there.
probably true, and no question. They can't put on a race without people in the seats. It doesn't work.
Oh,
that
yeah.
way.
Beautiful
And-
area. It made me want to move there one day. I love Phoenix.
Yeah, but there won't be a race, an IndyCar
That's
race.
true. Never mind. I have to scratch it off the list.
But I think there's several reasons in my mind, and one of them in particular, when Indy Racing League was there, they ran with the Copper World Classic, and it was huge. It was standing room only. The hills were packed with people. When some genius said in IndyCar, we're going to change the date, it went,
Date consistency
Oh,
has been
absolutely.
a big problem for us throughout, and we're doing what we can to try to keep races in the same dates to try to build that back up, but it's a process for sure.
oh, sure, no question. Anyway, thanks for being here.
Thank you for having
Enjoy,
me. I appreciate it.
And when you get a chance, go on to IndyCar.com, read what she and her cohorts
Please
put
do.
out. It's really, and believe it or not, Phil Wilson is a good writer.
He's a great writer.
He really is.
He's a great writer.
He's calmed down now. I can't wait to see his wife the next time. Say, you're doing a great job. Thanks for being here.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.
Pay attention to what she does. She does a good. Katie Guerra. Next week, we will be here. Who are we going to have? Don't have a clue yet. I had a couple of ideas this week, but I forgot about the test, and there's another one next week. So now I got to go a different way. But don't worry, Doctor, I won't invite you again because I know Teresa wants you home. She likes seeing you around once in a while. So. But go to autosportradio.com when my guests are on. You just click on the Autosport Radio tab and it will pop up who the guests are, and it might not show up until Friday, Saturday. But I've talked with some people. We're having something going on, and we'll look forward to seeing you next week. Thanks for being here. Thanks for listening and watching. Till next week, good night. See you next Tuesday.